Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My name is Sarosh and I am a foundation level student at the High School FA campus Islamabad, and today I am using my ChatGPT and my topic is wood, the backbone of early civilization. So let's start. Hello ChatGPT, can you listen me?
Yes, absolutely, Sarosh. I'm here and ready to listen. I'd love to hear what you've prepared or what you'd like to discuss about wood and early civilization. What direction are you thinking of taking?
So ChatGPT, today I have some questions for you. Can we start it?
Of course, I'd be happy to help. What kind of questions do you have in mind? Are you looking for historical facts, how wood was used in different cultures, or maybe its symbolic meaning in early policies? Let me know and we can dive in.
Okay, so ChatGPT, my first question is that why was wood essential for early human survival?
That's a great question. Wood was really crucial because it provided a primary resource for so many things: fires for cooking and warmth, shelter through building materials, tools, and even transportation like boats. Without wood, early humans would have really struggled with both daily survival and long term development.
Okay, so my next question is that how did early humans first use wood?
That's a fascinating point. Early humans used wood in really diverse ways. First, they used it to build simple shelters, providing protection from the elements. They carved wood to create tools like spears, digging sticks, and even early agricultural implements. Wood was also essential for cooking, as they made fires with wooden fuel, and even for crafting early musical instruments or art. So, in short, wood was everywhere, both practical and symbolic.
Okay, ChatGPT, my next question is that was wood humanity's first major resource?
Yes, it really was. Wood was often one of the first major resources that early human societies relied on, even before metalworking became widespread. Wood was renewable, accessible in most environments, and easy to shape, so it laid the foundation for construction, tools, and even early art. Basically, it was a cornerstone of early innovation and survival.
Okay, so ChatGPT, my next question is that how did wood help people, yeah, or humans adopt to different environments?
That's a really interesting angle. Wood helped early humans adapt in so many ways. For instance, in forested areas, wood was abundant, so people built wooden shelters and tools, but in open plains, wood was shaped into carts or sleds, helping them travel further. It also played a role in river crossings with wooden boats. Essentially, wood gave them a kind of mobility and flexibility, allowing them to thrive in different climates, from dense forests to open plains.
Okay, so my next question is that why was fiber crucial in ancient societies?
That's a key point. Firewood was absolutely crucial because it provided heat, which was essential for survival in colder climates. It was also vital for cooking, making food safe and more digestible, and for protection, keeping animals at bay. Plus, fire fueled metalworking and pottery in some cultures, which were early technological breakthroughs. So, firewood was really a foundation for progress in ancient societies.
So ChatGPT, tell me that what role did wood play in building shelters?
Absolutely. Wood was really foundational in building shelters. Early humans used wooden beams and logs to create the framework of their homes, like simple huts or log cabins. They used wooden planks for walls, roofs, and even floors. And because wood was flexible, it allowed them to adapt structures to their environment, whether that meant raising homes on stilts in flood prone areas or building huts in forests. So wood really gave them stable, customizable protection. Take your time.
So
If you
ChatGPT, my next question is that why was wood easier to use than stone or metal initially?
That's a great question. Wood was often easier to use because it was lightweight, abundant, and much simpler to shape with basic tools. Stone, on the other hand, had to be carefully chipped and shaped, which required significant skill and effort. Metal came later, and it was even harder to access, especially before advanced smelting techniques. So, wood's natural availability and ease of modification gave early humans a huge advantage, allowing them to experiment, build quickly, and adapt to their environments more easily.
So ChatGPT, my next question is that how did woodworking skills evolve over time?
That's a really rich topic. Early woodworking skills were quite basic. People started by simply shaping sticks or logs with stone tools. Over time, as societies advanced, they developed more precise techniques like carving, joinery, and eventually using metal tools like chisels and saws. These advances allowed for more complex structures like furniture, boats, and even intricate decorative carvings. By the time of early civilizations, woodworking had become a respected craft with specialized artisans and even entire guilds, making wood a core part of architectural and artistic heritage.
So ChatGPT, tell me that how did wood contribute to the control of fire?
That's a really fascinating connection. Wood was central to the control of fire because it was the primary fuel source. Early humans learned to gather and sustain small fires with dry wood, which gave them heat, protection, and a way to cook food. Over time, as they mastered woodworking, they built more efficient fire platforms like raised hearths, fire pits, or even wooden bellows for stoking flames. In this way, wood wasn't just fuel, it was a tool for refining and controlling fire, which was a game changer for early civilizations.
So ChatGPT, my next question is that why was fire a turning point in civilization and how did burning wood change cooking habits?
That's a really pivotal question. Fire was a turning point because it gave humans a level of control over their environment they hadn't had before. With fire, they could stay warm in colder climates, ward off predators, and crucially, cook food. Burning wood changed cooking habits dramatically. Raw foods could be made safer and more digestible, and people started experimenting with flavors, roasting, boiling, and even fermenting. As a result, meals became more diverse, nutrition improved, and food preparation became a communal, organized practice, laying
ChatGPT,
a
tell me
foundation.
that how did firewood improve safety at night and did fire encourage social bonding?
Yes, absolutely. Firewood and fire had a huge impact on safety at night. Once people had a controlled fire, it kept wild animals and threats at bay, creating a secure perimeter for early settlements. Beyond safety, fire was a natural gathering point, and so it really encouraged social bonding. Families, clans, or entire groups would gather around the fire to tell stories, share knowledge, and pass down traditions. In short, firewood wasn't just a practical tool, it was a catalyst for safety, storytelling, and community cohesion.
So my next question is that did fire encourage social bonding?
Yes, absolutely. Fire was really a catalyst for social bonding. After the day's work, people would gather around the fire to share food, exchange stories, and pass down traditions. This kind of communal time fostered cooperation, trust, and a sense of belonging. In many ways, the fire became a social anchor, helping people form stronger group identities and reinforcing shared values.
So ChatGPT, my next question is that what type of food were best for fire and how did wood fuel early technology?
That's a great question. The best wood for fire in early societies was typically dense, dry wood, like oak, beech, or pine, because it burned hotter and longer, providing steady heat. This reliable fuel was crucial in fueling early technologies. It drove metalworking in forges where wood fire smelted ores. It also helped with pottery, as kilns used wood for consistent heat. Essentially, wood wasn't just about cooking or warmth, it was the power behind early innovation, enabling the rise of metallurgy, ceramics, and other crafts that built early civilizations.
So ChatGPT, my next question is that how did firewood influence migration pattern and was firewood an early economic resource?
Absolutely. Firewood really did influence migration patterns. Groups often settled in areas where wood was plentiful, like river valleys or forested plains, because it was so critical for cooking, warmth, and technology. And yes, firewood also became an early economic resource. In some societies, wood was traded between regions, especially in areas where other fuel sources were scarce. Thus, wood wasn't just a necessity for survival, it became a valuable commodity, shaping trade, settlement, and even early economies.
So ChatGPT, my next question is that how did fire transform human intelligence and lifestyle?
That's a profound shift. Fire really transformed human intelligence and lifestyle in several ways. First, by cooking food, it made nutrients more accessible, which likely supported brain growth and cognitive development. With more stable energy sources, early humans had more time to engage in social learning, sharing knowledge, crafting, and planning. Fire also extended daily activities beyond daylight, allowing for more complex social structures, storytelling, and even early forms of scientific reasoning. In short, fire was a spark, literally and figuratively, propelling human creativity, cooperation, and intellectual progress.
So ChatGPT, tell me that what were the first wooden tool used by women?
Great question. The first wooden tools were likely very simple, things like digging sticks or spears. These were just sharpened branches or logs used for hunting and gathering. Over time, humans refined them, adding pointed tips, attaching them to handles, or using wood alongside other materials like bone. But those early wooden tools were crucial. They gave humans a way to dig, hunt, and interact with their environment, setting the stage for more complex craftsmanship down the line.
So ChatGPT, my next question is that why was wood ideal for tool making and how did wooden weapons shape early warfare?
That's a great point. Wood was ideal for tool making because it was readily available, easy to carve, and it could be shaped with simple tools. It was strong, but also flexible, which meant it worked well for handles, digging tools, and early agricultural instruments. In warfare, wooden weapons like bows, spears, and shields were often the first line of defense. They were lightweight, easy to produce, and could be used at range like bows, or in close combat like clubs or spears. So wood not only shaped daily survival tools, but it also defined early military tactics and gave rise to organized combat strategies.
Yes, ChatGPT tell me that how were how were farming tools made from wood and how did wooden handles improve stone tools?
That's a fantastic question. Early farming tools often started as wooden handles attached to stone or bone blades. People would carefully carve a wooden shaft, usually from hardwood like ash or oak, and then secure a stone blade to the end using sinew or plant fibers. The wooden handles were crucial because they gave leverage, improved grip, and reduced the shock on hands when digging or planting. Essentially, wooden handles amplified the effectiveness of heavier stone tools, making them easier to use for prolonged farming tasks. It was a perfect
So
fusion of
ChatGPT
materials.
tell me that did woodworking create early craftsmanship?
Yes, absolutely. Woodworking was one of the first crafts that emerged as a specialized skill, and it gave rise to early craftsmanship. Artisans began shaping wood not just for tools and structures, but also for decorative objects like carved figurines, bowls, and ceremonial items. Over time, wooden crafts became more intricate with inlays, patterns, and symbolic designs. So, wood really laid the groundwork for early artistry as well as functional craftsmanship, and it helped define cultural identity in many societies.
ChatGPT, my next question is that how did tool specialization begin with wood and what skills were needed to work with wood?
That's a really important development. Tool specialization began with wood because it was so versatile. Once people realized they could shape and refine wooden handles, shafts, and frames, distinct crafts emerged.
So ChatGPT, my next question is that how did carpentry become a respected trade?
That's a really fascinating evolution. Carpentry became a respected trade as societies grew more complex and needed more permanent structures houses, temples, boats, and furniture. As carpenters honed their skills, measuring, joining wood, and specific crafting joints, their work became integral to community life. Their craftsmanship was tied to safety, aesthetics, and innovation. Over generations, carpenters passed down their knowledge and became essential artisans, earning prestige for their ability to shape both everyday tools and grand architectural marvels.
So tell me that how did wooden inventions accelerate progress?
Absolutely. Wooden inventions were really at the heart of early progress. For instance, wooden wheels revolutionized transportation, enabling trade and migration. Wooden plows transformed agriculture, making farming more efficient and helping sustain larger populations. Wooden boats allow for exploration and trade across rivers and seas. As these inventions spread, they accelerated communication, agriculture, and commerce, basically laying down the infrastructure for more complex societies and future technological leaps.
So ChatGPT, tell me that why were ancient homes mostly wooden?
That's a great point. Ancient homes were often mostly wooden because wood was readily available, easy to shape, and suitable for a variety of climates. In forested areas, wood was abundant and flexible, so people could construct quick, simple shelters. Plus, wooden frames were easier to repair and adapt over time. While stone and clay were used in some cultures, wood offered a practical, lightweight, and cost effective option, which is why it was often the material of choice for early dwellings.
Okay, so ChatGPT, tell me that what were early wooden construction techniques?
That's a really interesting area. Early wooden construction techniques were pretty ingenious. People used simple post and beam frameworks, where upright wooden posts supported horizontal beams. They also employed notching, where logs were carved to fit snugly together. And they used interlocking joints like mortise and tenon or dowels to stabilize structures without nails. In some regions, they also built wooden frames filled with wattle and daub, or woven wooden strips for filling the top. These methods gave early homes strength, adaptability, and a surprising durability over time.
So ChatGPT, tell me that how did wood enable permanent settlements?
That's a key turning point. Wood enabled permanent settlements because it was the foundation of society. for constructing long-lasting homes and communal buildings. By using wood structural frames and roofs, people could build sturdier dwellings that could be expanded or adapted over time. Wood also made it easier to create storage spaces.
So ChatGPT tell me that what were early wooden construction techniques and how did climate affect wooden architecture?
Absolutely. Early wooden construction techniques included post and beam frameworks, where vertical wooden posts supported horizontal beams, as well as log cabin construction, using notched logs stacked on top of each other. Some cultures used wattle and daub, weaving wooden frames with branches and then coating them with mud. Now, climate played a huge role. In humid or rainy regions, wood needed careful treatment to resist rot, while in cold climates, wood was insulated and used alongside stone.
So tell me that why do many traditional houses still use wood?
That's a great observation. Many traditional houses still use wood because it's natural, renewable, and provides excellent insulation. Wood also carries a sense of cultural continuity. People are connected to the materials their ancestors used. Plus, wood is flexible, easy to work with, and offers a warm, inviting feel. So, even with modern materials around, wood often endures because it balances practicality, beauty, and tradition.
So ChatGPT tell me that how did wooden bridges change transportation and what role did wood play in village planning?
That's a really pivotal development. Wooden bridges were some of the earliest ways humans crossed rivers, streams, and ravines, which expanded trade routes, travel, and communication between villages. They enabled people to connect across natural barriers, accelerating the movement of goods and ideas. In village planning, wood was used not just for bridges, but also for paths, meeting areas, and markets. Wooden walkways and bridges helped form the backbone of daily movement, so wood really shaped how villages were structured and how people interacted across their space.
Okay, so my next question is that how did the temples and scared building use wood?
That's a fascinating aspect. In many ancient cultures, temples and sacred buildings used wood because it was a symbol of life, growth, and connection to nature. In some cases, wooden pillars supported grand roofs, while intricate carvings and sculptures told religious stories. In Japan, for example, wooden Shinto shrines were revered for their elegance and craftsmanship. In other cultures, wood was used to create ornate altars or ceremonial platforms. So, wood gave these sacred spaces a warm, organic presence, grounding spiritual life in the natural world.
So my next question is that what architectural knowledge come from woodworking?
That's a really interesting connection. A lot of early architectural knowledge actually grew out of woodworking practices. As carpenters and builders learned to measure, balance loads, and join pieces precisely, they developed a deep understanding of structural stability and geometry. By working with wood, seeing how it bent, held weight, or resisted elements, they could design more complex structures like trusses, arches, and even early roof systems. So,
ChatGPT tell me that how did wood enable the invention of goods and why were early ships made from wood?
that's a great point. Wood was really crucial in inventing boats because it was both buoyant and strong, and early humans could shape logs or planks into rafts, canoes, or more complex hulls. Wood was widely available in riverine and forested areas, so it was easy to carve and adapt. Early ships were made from wooden planks fastened together, like sewn boats or later sewn boats, because wood was both lightweight and easy to handle. Thus, wood really opened up river, coastal, and eventually long distance maritime travel, laying the groundwork for trade, exploration, and cultural exchange.
ChatGPT, my next question is that how did wooden wheels change history and how did parts transform trade routes?
That's a really big milestone. Wooden wheels were revolutionary because they allowed humans to transport goods much more efficiently. Once attached to carts, wheels reduced the effort of moving heavy loads, enabling longer distance trade. As carts became more common, new trade routes opened up. Goods like grains, textiles, and pottery could travel over land, connecting distant markets. This accelerated cultural exchange, economic growth, and even the rise of early urban centers. So, wooden wheels really drove a new era of connectivity and commerce.
Okay, that's a very great answer. So we will. This is my ChatGPT. Hope so you like it. Meet you in the next video. Pakistan Zindabad. Khuda.